Olá pessoal, eu sou a Rafaela Guimarães, host e fundadora do podcast Marketing Negócios, e a gente está aqui num episódio muito especial, o primeiro episódio internacional, aqui estamos chique, aqui no Brasil, em parceria com a Netza&CO. E eu tô aqui com o Marcelo Chuquer, que é VP de Novos Negócios da Netza. A gente tá super feliz de estar aqui com um convidado especial, que o Marcelo vai contar um pouquinho pra gente falar sobre impacto social, pra gente falar sobre a conexão do Brasil com projetos de impacto social, uma empresa que super bacana, que a gente vai trazer, internacional. Então, Marcelo, apresenta aí pra gente nosso convidado e um pouquinho aí da nossa parceria também.
Wow, it's a huge pleasure to be here, to be honest. For me, I'm feel flattered to be here, especially in this first episode, international episode, to be here with you, Rafa. Going forward in our collab here I have the Michael Sheldrick. Michael Sheldrick, it is the co-founder and Chief Policy, Impact, Governance, Affairs of Global Citizen. So we are going to have a wonderful chat over here just to give you an idea of the impacts, the responsibilities, the policies, the advocacy that this guy from the scrap is starting building around the world, and it will be a pleasure to have this kind of conversation with you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be back in Brazil. Great to be with you both and looking forward to it. Yeah. And it's a real honor. I was saying earlier that, you said this is your first international episode. And I think it's fitting that, you've got Global Citizen here after all.
Great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, for people who don't know Global Citizen yet, how would you explain what it is and what inspired you to start it?
So Global Citizen today is a movement of millions of people around the world in all the continents, from Africa to Europe to here in Brazil to North America. And it's people who take action. They believe in helping others. They believe in eradicating extreme poverty, and they volunteer their time. They download our app, they take action, they learn about the issues. They might volunteer to pick up rubbish from a beach. They might volunteer to plant trees, or they might volunteer to advocate and contact their elected officials and say, hey, people care about defeating poverty and defending the planet. And today, if you Google Global Citizen, you'll see that we work with some of the biggest artists in the world, including some of Brazil's iconic artists like Anitta, but also through to Rihanna, Coldplay, Ed Sheeran, you name it, we've worked with them. But back when we started Global Citizen, me and my other co-founders, we were just student advocates in Australia, right, at university. And the idea we were grappling with was, how do we mobilize millions of people to take action? I started out by organizing fundraisers at my university. We would raise money, we would build a school in a community who needed it. It was like, my God, to eradicate extreme poverty, we need all hands on deck. And so the idea we came up with was Global Citizen, which was an app people could download, they could learn about it. But at the time we were developing this, the issue was everyone was creating apps, right? So how can we cut through the noise and get people to download it? And so that's where we came up with this model. We call it Pop Meets Policy. Wow. And so we partnered with musicians. We would organize events. And here's the thing, the only way you could get in, the only way you could get a ticket was by downloading the app, taking action, you earn points, and then you could trade in those points to earn a ticket to our event. And so that started in Australia. Then a year later, my final year in university, we found ourselves on the great lawn of Central Park with 60,000 people, some of the biggest artists, and more than a decade later, this movement's grown to more than 12.5 million citizens. That's helped impact the lives of more than 1.3 billion people on the planet. And it's been an incredible ride. But right now here in Brazil, the reason what's special about this country is the people who are really responding, who are saying we love Global Citizen, are here in Brazil. And this started several years ago. We noticed it organically. People were coming to the website. They were downloading Global Citizen through Brazil. And this year alone, more than 40% of all the actions taken on our platform have come from citizens right here in Brazil.
Really?
So Brazilians love Global Citizen.
40%?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
massive. Brazilians they love Global Citizen, we love Brazil.
And did you imagine that? Like, how was your feeling about the public and the target? You know,
5 years ago, we organized this virtual event. It was called One World Together at Home. It was during the first month of the global pandemic, right? So if you remember, everyone was locked down. Yeah. No one could produce concerts. So we partnered with Lady Gaga, and we did this huge virtually broadcast event. It was seen in countries around the world. More than 250 million people saw it. Wow. It raised $120 million for pandemic relief efforts. But I remember then there was something special about the way Brazil responded. We didn't even have Portuguese on the website then, but people were downloading. There was Create in Action. Then nonprofits started reaching out to us and saying, hey, we want to partner with you. We want to bring Global Citizen here. And then, of course, Global Citizen is also one of the charity partners of Coldplay, and Coldplay is massive.
Yeah, it is.
So we saw that and we picked it up. So there was something special about Brazilians. And I think the young people here, the way they use music, but also making a difference, the work of social movements, I think people get Global Citizen. They understand what we're about.
Yeah, I do believe that the main idea that you had before was to mix it, music and great artists are so important for your mission, you know. So how did you think this kind of channel, this kind of important artists could help you your mission, you know? So how was your impact? How was your strategy? Or maybe even doesn't have a strategy to and make it happen organically?
Well, I think music, especially now, right? We live in a divided world. People are polarized. I think music is still a universal language, right? It cuts through the noise. It brings people together. And I think whether you're here in Brazil or in America, wherever, people are craving connection. They're looking for ways to partner. They're looking for ways. They're saying, I don't have to agree with everyone on everything, but can we work together to do some good in the world? And I think music is a way to do that, to bridge that gap. And just one example of how music can be used by Global Citizen to change people's lives. During the pandemic in 2021, we had these emails from these communities in the Amazon region here in Brazil. And it was communities reaching out and they were saying, listen, we need our governors to respond to us because there's a lot of illegal burning taking place in the Amazon at record levels. And none of these governors are replying to us. And so they said, you know, can you and Coldplay, we're not asking you to speak on our behalf, but can you ask these governors to reply to us? And so Coldplay, of course, on Twitter, they sent out some tweets. They said, hey, why aren't you replying to these communities? Global Citizens got behind it. And then you can imagine all those governors, they quickly replied
yeah, of course.
to Coldplay. And one of them was actually, it still is the governor of Pará, Governor Helder replied. And I think it was one of the major areas that was protected during the pandemic. I think it was equivalent to the US state of Rhode Island and new areas protected from illegal burning. And so that was just one way. And then, of course, it was in partnership. It was lifting up those voices. So that's just one concrete example relevant to here in Brazil. But awesome. I can give you loads of others as well.
And how do you choose who to work with? Artists and music?
So we're always partnership-driven platform. You know, people see Global Citizen and they think, wow, you guys are doing this in Africa, you're doing this in America. Your team must be huge. And no, it's not. We always work with partners on the ground. You know, in Africa recently, we just took John Legend to Rwanda and Lagos. We're trying to build Africa's first international touring circuit, actually modeled by what Brazil has here. Brazil actually has one of the best international touring circuits in the world. We're trying to recreate that in Africa. 90% of all the people who work on our shows in Africa were 90% from the local communities. In Rwanda, we actually trained Rwanda's first international rigging team, you know, those who get on top of stadiums, they put the lights in place. And so for us, we always work in partnership. So when we partner on causes, it usually begins with a conversation. Maybe it's a leader of a community, a nonprofit organization like Reward, who we're working with in Brazil. And they say, listen, we've got this idea, but we rally and support. We need to show that people care. And that's where Global Citizen comes in.
Awesome. And Global Citizen will host a big event in Amazon during the COP30.
That's right.
So what's the main goal on this event, and what do you expect to impact will have across borders?
Yeah, so we've been speaking to more than 50 community organizations in the Amazon region, and we've partnered with, I think, now more than 100 nonprofit organizations in the region. And what they've said is, listen, we need to showcase to the world that the Amazon is the lungs of the earth and we all need to support.
Yeah.
And so that's why, in partnership with these organizations, on November 1st, we will bring the first ever global citizen festival to take place in Latin America. It will take place in Belém on November 1st, a week before the COP30 climate talks, and it will be headlined by Brazil's own Anitta, Sue George, the State of Prague's Gabi Amarantis, with, of course, an exclusive performance from Coldplay. We'll have indigenous leaders like Chief Brayoni, and I've got to tell you, in the week after we made that announcement, more than 1.2 million actions were taken, 72% of which were from people and communities in the Amazon region.
That's amazing.
And we have an ask, though. We're asking business leaders, governments, those coming to Brazil, we're asking them to commit $1 billion to support communities in the Amazon who are protecting the forests, not just for themselves, but so that people around the world can benefit.
Wow.
After
this,
what a number.
You're all invited, of course. You're all invited.
Yeah, working at
Logo.
Netza&CO, so we have the proud to be part of, you know.
Yeah.
So this for us is one of the biggest access that we have through this company, you know, to be able to support this kind of actions, this part of I don't know how can I say that, you know, this part of initiative.
Yep.
And so congratulations, you know. So
And I should say we have some amazing partners like, you know, Ottavio here today, who's around. He set up our interview, great guy. But also with Reward, which is an incredible organization. We've been working with many nonprofits. We've been working with many companies here in Brazil as well. Mm-hmm. So, you know, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something, right? Yeah. And so, again, it comes back to partnership.
And when it comes to companies, do you feel they are really ready to take action for the planet and all those projects? Or is it still a lot of talk and little action? What do you think about the companies, and what is your opinion about it?
Look, I think beneath the radar, people get it. I think, honestly, 5 years ago, the cynic could say, is this talk? But now when you speak to business leaders, I think they understand the climate crisis is here.
Yeah.
You know, a new report came out last week, actually, and it showed almost like 80% likelihood that the next 5 years we'll see yet again the hottest year on record, which was only broken in 2024 last year. So they said it's almost near certainty that that record will be broken again next 5 years. And what is the result of that? It's going to be more floods, more hurricanes, more fires. And companies are now saying, we can't operate in this world. You know, our factories are going to be closed down. You know, ports are going to be disrupted. They're saying this is now having an impact on our businesses. So I think business leaders are waking up and they're saying we have to prepare for a warmer world. We have to prepare where all of these once in a generation events happen on a more frequent, severe basis. But also we have to be part of this because you can't run from the climate crisis, right? Yeah. And so I think many business leaders, they may not be talking about it,
but they are doing.
But they're doing it, and that's what really matters, right? The 18th century American founding father has this great saying. He says, well done is better than well said. And I think last 5 years there was a lot of good talk,
absolutely.
But now's the time for action.
And how do you see Brazil, especially at this year that we are going to receive the first COP30 here in Belém at Amazon? So how do you see, especially the indigenous community, helping lead this kind of change? So what is the main importance of these Brazil's conversations?
So because you can read all of these things in the media. So 2 months ago, I went to Belém myself, and I decided to go and actually meet with some of the local leaders in the communities. And I asked them, is this a good idea? Like, we're looking to bring the Global Citizen Festival here. You know, we're looking to bring these major artists. We want to mobilize citizen advocates. But is this a good idea? Like, do you want us to come? And what they all told me is they said, it is an incredible opportunity. the last 4 years, most of these big conferences have taken place. They've taken place in the Gulf region. They've taken place on another part of the world. They've been talking about the impact to communities like us in the Amazon. But now this is the first COP that will be taking place in the forest. And they said, this is an incredible opportunity, but it's only going to be an opportunity if we have a seat at the table, if we have our voices amplified. So they said, come to Belém, but give us that stage. We want to be there on stage. And that's why we're excited that we've got Chief Rayoni on that stage. And they said, let us have the moment to have our talk. And you're going to be hearing from hopefully many of them on our stage so that the world can hear that. Yeah. And not only hear that the world comes with serious commitments. Prime Minister Motley of Barbados, again, an incredible leader. She always talks about a record of action. We need to come to Belém with a record of action and commitments. Yeah. And of course, I also hope the world sees another size. People around the world, when you're not from the Amazon region, right, you can quickly dismiss it. This is the forest, it's the wildlife. But, I tell people, if it was a country, population of the Amazon would be bigger than Australia, my own country.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know exactly, but could be.
More than 30 million people live between the trees and the land in the Amazon region. Yeah. And, it has incredible food, incredible culture, music. So I hope we can also showcase that to the world as well. This is an incredible dynamic region.
Let me ask you something that across our conversations just come across into my mind. So maybe this is the first global citizen event concert during a COP, around the world. This is the first COP in a forest. Mm-hmm. So these kind of combinations could help you to make the final decisions to be part of, or even just because it's Brazil, or what is the main goal about it? What was the main strategy behind to take these decisions to make it happen?
So I think one of the big critical things that has always come up in the world of climate change is we have to do several things if we're to avoid the worst of warming weather, right? The worst of what all of the experts talk about. And yes, we have to turn off and transition away from fossil fuel. Coal, oil, and gas, we have to find a way to get towards solar energy powered by the sun, wind, battery. And that's starting to happen. I think already solar energy in many parts of the world is becoming the cheapest, fastest, reliable source of energy. But one of the other things we have to do is we have to stop burning our forests. Because you know what, if we burn a forest like the Amazon, right, then it doesn't matter if we stop burning fossil fuels. We can give up. And so the Amazon really is the lungs of the earth. And so for us, these conversations have always been taking place apart, separate. Mm-hmm. And often people in these areas, they fight with one another. Hey, you shouldn't be here. You're taking funding from me. You're taking attention. You're taking media stories away. And so I really hope we can say we need to do all of this. It's not either or. It's all of this. And the good news is I think there's a lot of good news being done. The great thing when I was in the Amazon region is some incredible entrepreneurs. They took me to this one site, and it was this fruit, the Takuma fruit. They told me it's like orangey fruit. Well, they signed a deal, this community, with this huge company, and they said 1 drop from this Takuma fruit, you put it into soap bars in America. Not only is it a great product, but it supports 3,000 people, families, at 1 drop. So there's an incredible diverse region in the Amazon, and those products could be going into many supply chains around the world. So that's what I hope people understand. It is an incredible opportunity.
I have a curiosity. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned in this journey?
Yeah, it's that's a big question.
That's an easy question.
I thought the questions were all easy.
Yeah. One of the lessons that you want to share with us.
One of them,
because you've learned a lot with partners, with communities in your journey.
As I was writing this book, From Ideas to Impact, it's not just about my experience founding Global Citizen. It was also the opportunity to go back to some of the incredible leaders, people like Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, incredible advocates at the grassroots level, trade union activists, business entrepreneurs. Really ask them, what is your ingredient? How have you led to change in people's lives, like actual change? And so I distilled it into 8 principles, if you like, 8 simple lessons that was common. But one that really stood out, no matter who I spoke to, they all kind of agreed on this one lesson, that creating change requires working, engaging, and interacting with people you might not always agree with or even like. And it sounds simple, but throughout history, that's what it comes down.
In a divided world?
I know, in a divided world. That's why we need to know it more than ever before. That's what it takes. And I still remember a few years ago, this was in America, we invited this Republican senator to, and Global Citizens, a nonpartisan platform. We engage with people on sides, but we invited this senator to speak. And a partner said, "How dare you? How dare you invite that man on our platform?" But the reason why we had invited him is because we was trying to get his support to back this legislation in the US Congress that would have allocated billions of dollars to fight the climate crisis. And you know what the impact of that bill was several years later, the funding? It led to the planting the equivalent of 500,000 football fields in new trees being planted.
How many?
500,000, 500,000 new football fields of trees being planted.
Wow.
Like imagine that, like stadiums, like that was the impact. And so I think sometimes we have to ask ourselves the question, are we here to win debates, score points, win arguments, or do we actually care about impact and changing the world? Yeah.
This is amazing. And for people from Brazil who wants to be part of Global Citizen, I know that Brazilians are completely fan of the movement, but what is the best way to get involved? And what do you feel and what's your visions for the futures of these amazing and wonderful movements that you have created?
So first of all, you can download the Global Citizen app. We have an incredible team here in Brazil. You can take action today. We also have Global Citizen available on WhatsApp as well. So you can go to our WhatsApp channel. We're very active there. We will also have some in-person volunteer opportunities, especially for people in Belém, in Pará. So we'll be actually having ways for you to get involved in person and win tickets to the festival. But also, I mentioned before, we're interested in partnership. And we're not interested in doing a one-off event. We're not one and done, okay, we're here this year. What we're trying to build, we hope, is a community that will outlast that.
Something solid,
something solid.
Strong.
Yeah. And so I hope Global Citizen will be back again and again. I hope we'll have more to say on this. We're speaking to a number of potential partners. So stay tuned for that. But right now, you can still get involved.
Yeah. Well, to wrap up, you brought us your book.
I did.
So tell us about it, from ideas to impact. So what made you want to write it? And tell us about it. Yeah, some lessons about it.
So first of all, these copies are for you. So
wow.
I'd love
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Here.
And it's available also on Audible as well, so you can listen to it on Audible. Ideas to impact. I know people these days, I'm told if you listen to it at 1.6 speed, you can listen to it in under 4 hours. So people like listening rather than reading. But look, how I started writing this book is, in the last 5 years, I think it's fair to say we live in this world when people actually start questioning, can my actions make a difference? So, and it's not just young people. So many people say to me, things just seem to be getting so bad and it doesn't feel like I can do anything about it. And especially during the pandemic, I'd have people reaching out to me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and they would all be asking, like, how can I get involved? How can I make a difference in my local communities, in my cities, in my states, in my nations, even at the world? And so the book was my attempt to distill these 8 principles that anyone can use, regardless of where you are at. Doesn't matter whether you're an ordinary citizen, a small business owner, a cultural icon like Anita or Taylor Swift even. It doesn't matter.
A podcaster.
Just need to start, just to need to be involved.
Exactly. And look, I don't profess to have all of the answers. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I genuinely think right now, if you can just give people a place to start, that first action, and if they can see the impact of that, then the momentum from that will not just encourage them, it will inspire their friends and family. We can make a difference because we have made a difference. One of my favorite quotes is from Eleanor Roosevelt, who co-wrote the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. She said, "The way to begin is to begin." And I hope the book...
Amazing quote.
I love it. I have it on a fridge magnet at home. Actually, it was with my friend and colleague Dom. We went up to Hyde Park, where I think Roosevelt lived in New York.
But so powerful,
simple. And I saw this magnet, and I think it's just like, where can we begin? And that's how we turn apathy into action. Because the best antidote to apathy, depression, despair is action. So let's get started. We can all do something. And so looking forward to people's stories. They can get in touch. I've loved hearing from people who've said it's resonated with me. This is my story. There's so much taking place. We will get through this. We are making a difference. Many people are day in, day out, regardless of what we see. That's what keeps me going, because we do not, as one wise guy said to me late last year, he said, we don't have the luxury of pessimism right now. Yeah. So let's do it.
I'm so inspired with this conversation.
It's a masterclass.
So yeah,
it's a masterclass. I really hope that everyone involved here, the audience could enjoy as much as we could. So one lesson that I have learned over here, it's talking about partnership, and makes me very glad. Also, the partnerships that we have through this podcast, and having you as one of the first invitation that we have, the first guest that we have over here inside our own studio. So to me, it was a pleasure, Michael, and congratulations for what you have done. I'm pretty sure that you are only at the beginning, and here we are completely with the arms open to help you and to make this message spreads around the world as much as we can. And of course, thank you to Rafa as well, because was a wonderful shot, was a wonderful conversation, and a wonderful masterclass.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to create the first episode in English of Marketing and Business with Netza&CO. So did we good? Is okay?
You guys were amazing. You guys were awesome. And hopefully this will be the first of many more to come. We're looking forward to partnering together. And obrigado. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pessoal que nos ouviu até agora, obrigada por estar aqui com a gente. É um prazer estar aqui falando inglês, recebendo uma pessoa tão importante de impacto, né, social. Fica aqui o convite para vocês acompanharem, né, tanto o Michael, o Marcelo. Todos os links vão estar aqui na descrição do episódio, do livro também, de fazer parte do Global Citizen também. Então fica aqui o convite para vocês acompanhar os outros episódios dessa parceria e também engajar e compartilhar aqui que viram esse episódio. Até o próximo episódio.